Hello, fellow travelers. I'm John, and today we continue our journey through Myanmar. This part of the country is home to some of the most remarkable landscapes and historic sites in Southeast Asia. For over 1,000 years, kingdoms rose and fell here, leaving behind temples, pagodas, and traditions that still shape daily life. One of the most extraordinary places in Myanmar is Bagan, where thousands of temples and stupas stretch across a wide plain along the Adawande River. It's a place where history feels endless and the scale is almost impossible to take in all at once. During our journey, we'll explore these ancient temples, experience the landscape from above, and travel onward to places that reveal even more about Myanmar's culture, history, and daily life. Let me show you exactly where we'll begin. We're still in the same area of some of our other adventures here in China, and here's India. And Myanmar lies right in the center, right here. So that's where we'll begin today. So let's grab our passports and let's get started. Good morning, fellow travelers. We cruised this morning toward Bagan to visit the beautiful Red Temple there. It's quite an impressive sight to go inside and see this magnificent golden statue of Buddha. As we toured around outside, it was just a stunning view of how many of these temples and pagodas, maybe hundreds, it'd be hard to say how many there actually were, that were built on this flat plain along the river. They were of every shape and size you could imagine. Once we got through with that part of the tour, we drove to this very impressive pagoda that apparently was where all the locals and I guess tourists in that area at the time went to see the sun go down. And way before dark, people were jockeying for prime seats on the very narrow steps. If you look closely, you can see down here at the bottom where the tourists like us who were late for the party just kind of had to have what might call the nosebleed seats, even though they were lower to the ground. Of course, nothing would do, but we would try to climb these. They were very steep and very, very narrow. I don't know if you've ever climbed any steps in Mayan ruins, but the people that built them must have feet half our size because they're very narrow. And if you've had the experience of ever climbing some, you'll know that going up is not too bad because you aren't looking down. But when you get to the top and turn around and you see just exactly how far you would fall if you missed one of those steps, I can almost promise you what you do is turn around and just like a child, you back down, holding on to the step behind you and taking one very gentle step behind you. It's a pretty humbling experience, and that's exactly what happened to me. I'd gone up pretty high. I was pretty proud of myself, and then when I looked around, I grabbed hold of the railing and just swallowed my pride and just backed right on down till I got down to the ground. I guess you might say my one consolation prize was some absolutely beautiful photo opportunities as the sun went down. We had a great night that night, and very, very early the next morning, we went right back to the same plain, delta you might call it, along the Adawande River for a wonderful surprise hot air balloon ride over the entire area there. So you can see our very well-trained balloon team inflating our balloons, and it was like a dreamlike scene that was unfolding. The rising sun lit up the gold and sand-colored stupas that just stretched to the horizon. It took about 40 minutes to get these gigantic balloons up and inflated as we all stood around, sort of mesmerized by this whole process. It was pretty warm, but there probably was not a person there that wasn't shivering just from the excitement of that entire picture that was unfolding, before us. As we rose up, we were treated to a bird's eye view that allowed us to fully appreciate the scale of this magical place with its 1,000-year-old pagodas and temples that dotted the shoreline of the mighty Adawande River. What an experience unfolded before us as we got higher and we cleared downtown launching area. The view that just spread out before us was just very hard to describe. There were just scores of these balloons in the air all at the same time, and the wind was like just gently blowing us out over these different shapes and size, temples and pagodas, and they really just went as far as you could see. Some even, I believe, were the ones that we tried to climb the day before, but this was, of course, a very different viewpoint from above. After we landed, we were off to a place called Mount Papa. On the way, we had a little side trip where we visited a village that was famous for lacquerware. We learned about the technique of doing this, and as you can see, the raw material comes from way up in these trees. And it was fascinating to watch these people harvest whatever the fruit. I don't think they were coconuts, but whatever they were, they went a long way up to get them. And then we, apparently this is a refining process. It looked almost like a still, where you would boil this stuff off, get the water out of it, and then thicken it up. So that was an interesting process. And of course, there was a lady there on the side that was doing hand weaving. And of course, the draw for my wife was, if you'll notice, these rings around her neck. I don't know how many there were, and I certainly would have loved to have somebody explain to me at what age they were put on there, or if in fact she grew into them or they were fastened at some later date, but they fit really tight, and there were a lot of them, and they looked very heavy. And of course, nothing would do but for my wife to get her picture taken with this lady that was had all these rings in there. So when we got to Mount Papo, this was going to be our lunch place, by the way, a very impressive itinerary just went completely out the window, because just about the time we were halfway through lunch, in came, I'm going to say scores, I don't know how many it was, but a lot of these old cars. And they belonged to a club that apparently was into long distance road trips, that I guess they were racing the clock, as I understood it. And this trip, you can tell from the decals on the hoods and all, was called the Road to Mandalay. If you notice in one of the cars here, number 16, I was interested in reading that apparently that car had been on one trip called the Vintage Cape Horn trip in 2013 and the Peking to Paris trip in 2010. And this trip was the Road to Mandalay, as I said, and that started in Singapore, went to Malaysia, then to Thailand, and then on to Burma, which is in fact today Myanmar. So what a great finish to the day, but it ruined our lunch, and they worked so hard to plan a really pretty sort of going away lunch for us. But we went back that night, said goodbye to a beautiful little ship, spent the night in the hotel, and as I looked out my window at the hotel that night before I went to bed, the view was of the spectacular Shuanga Pagoda in all its glory. And so it was a fitting end to a great trip to Myanmar. What an unforgettable experience has been here in Myanmar. From the vast temple plains of Bagan to the breathtaking views from above and on to the unexpected moments that made this journey so special. Whether visiting historic sites, exploring villages, or taking in once-in-a-lifetime scenery, this part of the world leaves a lasting impression. I'm grateful you came along as one of our co-travelers. On our next journey, we'll continue discovering new places and sharing stories from around the world, with more meaningful experiences still ahead. In the meantime, if you'd like more stories from the great outdoors, be sure to visit my Amazon channel and explore my books there. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll be the first to join me on our next venture. Until then, keep making memories with the people you cherish the most. And remember, life's best moments are found in outdoor adventures. Let's keep exploring this amazing world together.